Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Underserved, the podcast for the rest of the tech industry. I'm your host, Andrew Jelina. Today I have with me Bharathi Balasubramanyam, also known as B. She's a software engineering manager at LifeScore Labs. B, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I don't normally timestamp or time capsule the episode. Right now, we are in the middle of COVID-19 quarantine and connecting remotely using Squadcast. So thank you for the flexibility, B.
Anytime.
So when things are more normal, what are you up to at LifeScore Labs and MassMutual?
So LifeScore Labs is a wholly owned subsidiary of MassMutual. And what we do is we're bringing the models that have been developed by MassMutual to the consumers. And on a regular day, my office is in Boston and I have this beautiful view overlooking the tea party. So I actually know the tea party happening down to the T right now. But now with the COVID-19 and everything, it's, working remotely and going with the flow. It's a very small team of about 10 members. And I think the interesting thing that we're doing is the fact that it's like a startup mentality within a huge organization. So there's a whole set of pros and cons right there, but it's been going really good so far.
Excellent. So way back in the day, what got you interested in technology?
Well, it's actually an interesting story. When I first started, it's going to make me seem like a dinosaur. But in any case, when I was first studying, I was actually on the track to becoming a doctor. So I was actually doing everything medicine related. And I remember going for one of the biology classes where you had to actually pin up the rat and then do a dissection. And I think I didn't knock out the rat hard enough. So while during the dissection, the rat actually came up alive. And I'm like, yep, okay, this is not a good sign maybe. And that was strike number one. And I just realized I had this aversion to blood. So I'm like, yeah, maybe medicine might not be the right path to me. And at that point of time, computer science was like the new thing. Everyone was creating their first Gmail account and like, you can't get my name right now. I have to pad it with like 10 other numbers to actually get whatever name I want. So computer science seemed really interesting. And I'm like, let's just give this a try.
You went to school in Singapore, right?
Yep. I went to school in Singapore. I came to the States when I was 26 for a job.
Okay. What was it like doing your education in Singapore?
Being part of a British colony, we follow the British way of learning. So we have the GCO level and A level. And this is back in my time. Things have changed drastically now. And it's structured. It is intense, but I think it prepares you for life. I think I am where I am right now, thanks to a very good education system that Singapore provided for me, as well as my mom. Yes, I've been paid to say that my mom will kill me if I do not mention her. So yes.
All right. Shout out to mom. So why computer science? Did you like the problem solving of it? Did you like building things from scratch?
I was always interested in mathematics. You have 1 + 1 = 2, but there's a bazillion ways you can actually get to 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the computer science kind of gave me the same avenue in deriving a solution in many ways, but then challenging yourself in finding out the most effective, most optimal way to get to a solution. So that kind of fascinated me. And literally any language that you use in computer science gets translated to bits, which is ones and zeros. But the fact that you have so many languages that translates to that was interesting enough to me. And plus, I'm a Gemini. I need variety. So it was a good thing.
All right. Very good. So what pushes you outside the comfort zone in coding, and what do you think developers have to be mindful of today in order to be good, be highly valued in the marketplace, and be successful?
I think the most important thing that you have to have is this need to be continuously learning. There's no such thing as I am good at this language and that's all that is going to be. You have to constantly keep abreast of what the latest technology is. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, that's when you're actually learning a lot, in my opinion. And keeping abreast of the latest technology and making sure that you're doing side projects or getting to know what the latest is all about is very important. For example, if you're given a project and you have a tried and tested way of doing things, I would say get out of your comfort zone and try doing it in another language just so that you get an experience and it widens your perspective as to why this language is actually better than the other. Or you can even find going down one route as to why it might not be a good reason. And you would never know it unless you try it.
There's no growth in the comfort zone and no comfort in the growth zone. And you sometimes just have to bite the bullet and try something difficult, move to a new language, not be as productive, which is like kryptonite for a developer sometimes, but force yourself to try something new and push yourself out there. Are there any technologies that you've been excited about lately or been interested in or thought are kind of novel and gaining steam?
I came from a Java background, and when I got my previous job, it was PHP. And at that point of time, PHP was making its rise again thanks to Facebook. But currently, right now, I'm just amazed at what JavaScript can do. You literally can be a full stack developer just knowing JavaScript with the front end in React, and then you have Node.js, and then you have your whole new domain of serverless, where you have Lambda functions that can be written in JavaScript, your MongoDB. Your database is also a JSON object oriented relational database. So the fact that you can be a full stack developer knowing just one language is kind of cool. And JavaScript seems to be a constantly evolving language as well, because the number of developers that have just jumped on board the JavaScript bandwagon is huge. So that language has gotten me pretty excited in recent times.
Now, do you teach yourself on your own? Does your employer help out with that at all? How do you push yourself to learn?
MassMutual is very helpful when it comes to you wanting to upgrade yourself. We have access to O'Reilly online resources. We're constantly being asked to go for conferences where other developers meet and congregate, network, learn. So that's been very helpful. And literally all you need right now is a good internet connection, and you can find what you need on the web. So there's a bazillion resources out there. It's just picking one that suits your needs the most.
Now, I know a lot of folks breaking into the technology industry kind of have imposter syndrome. And we touched on this previously in another episode of Underserved. But can you tell me a bit about your personal feelings there and how you overcame it and so forth?
Sure. I am from a technical background, and in recent times I was like, I want to get my hands wet with management as well. So when the opportunity was presented to me, I was grateful for one, software engineering manager seems like a very cool title. But then you fluctuate between, oh my God, what am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have any experience in management. I actually have a team now to lead. What are you going to do? And I think the best thing that you can ever have is a boss that you can actually go to and be able to talk to about these things. And asking for help is another thing as well. If you feel like you're having this imposter syndrome, number one, it's fine to feel that way. Acceptance is a good part in beginning the learning journey that is going to get you to overcome that syndrome, and also being able to tell things as is. I think being honest, being upfront, and having a good relationship with your boss is always a very good thing. And a good mentorship that comes from a good boss is also invaluable. And that's what I've had at MassMutual.
So I have 3 daughters, one or more may be interested in getting into technology. Any advice you would give younger you?
Take more risks. Don't be scared of failure, essentially. I think taking risk is the best learning mechanism there is out there. And if you fail, but you're going to learn something when you fail. And if you learn, you succeed, and that's going to be a secret ingredient moving forward to anything else that you're going to do.
Yeah, I think that school tends to prepare you to A, work alone most of the time, not a ton of group projects, or if you work with someone else on this, you're cheating. And B, it's kind of exacting. You got the right answer, you get a good grade. You get the wrong answer, you get a bad grade at exam time. Whereas the software industry tends to be more iterative. Get the wrong answer 5 or 6 times to get to the right answer and learn something from those 5 or 6 wrong ones, maybe even more than you learn from finally getting the right one. What do you think of that?
That's so true. I think lather, rinse, repeat is a mantra that we should all keep in mind. You would never have a company that releases a product and it's pristine the first day. You are going to find bugs because as users use it, you're going to get feedback. And if you don't improve, then you're not making a better product, because who is the product for? It's for the end users. And if you're not taking their feedback and incorporating it and trying to build features or make existing features to suit their needs, then what's the point? Take, for example, Facebook. The look and feel of Facebook has improved in leaps and bounds since it first came out. Even the chat messenger. Or for that example, Google searching mechanisms. Everything has evolved because you take in feedback, lather, rinse, repeat, and make the product better.
I think it doesn't just apply to software, even podcasting. I've heard some people say if you're not completely embarrassed of your first episode, you didn't release it quickly enough. So you got to get something out there. You need a 1.0 before you have a 2.0, and you're going to learn so much by doing it that you really need to get something out there quickly so users can engage with it, whether it's paper, video, podcast, or a piece of code, and then get some feedback and don't be afraid to get banged up, make changes and learn.
That's so true. And like you said, it doesn't even apply to just software alone. I love baking. And the first time I baked a cake, it was burnt crisp. And so lesson one was do not burn things. You learn and you learn and you repeat. And now my cakes are edible. So I think that's good.
That's a big step up. Talk for a bit, if you could, about components and reusability and technical debt and realizing when to componentize things.
I think the challenge that a lot of developers face is they're always working crunch time, and it's the race towards releasing a product, releasing a feature and getting it out there, like you said. But during the life cycle of software development, there has to be a downtime where developers need to deal with the technical debt. And it is up to whoever's managing or talking to the stakeholders saying that, yeah, you're not going to be seeing visible changes to the system, but you're going to see improvements in the system because you're repaying all this technical debt. If you ever see yourself copy pasting code, that is the hugest red flag that you can ever see, saying that, yeah, you need to build a component that is reusable. Reusability is going to help in maintainability, and it's simple logic, right? If you copy pasting code and you find a bug in one piece of code, you now have to go and change 10 other files because you've copy pasted the code in 10 places. Versus if you just build a component, it's a one place fix, and that's going to get trickled down everywhere else that needs to be trickled down. So I'm a huge proponent of, yes, we need to get the feature out there, but always have it in the development cycle that you need time for paying back technical debt.
Yeah, that reminds me of an old trigger too that we learned in operations management and also in software consulting. If you spot someone entering something off paper from one system into another, that's definitely an integration opportunity. That's where an API belongs right there. I had to do this way back in the day at monster.com in order to help their post a job get stuff onto the site. But we still see this problem in 2020. And it's one of those things when you spot it, you're like, aha, API time.
Yep, agreed. Totally agreed.
Could you talk a bit about serverless architecture? Because I've heard a lot of people on the bandwagon lately, but sometimes it seems like a solution in search of a problem. Where have you found it useful, and what do you think the best fit is?
So I used to work in a big company, the whole 9 yards, where you have a server room full of servers and you're dealing with databases and you're dealing with how to make things faster and everything. So when serverless came along and they're like, you don't have to worry about the hardware, things are going to spin up according to what you need, it seems like a huge plus, which I think it is a huge plus if you're in a startup mentality and you want to get a product there and you don't have enough resources to do DevOps as well. It's letting whatever the serverless architecture you choose, let it be AWS or Microsoft, to handle all of that for you. You're offloading some of that for now, but don't jump on a serverless solution just because it's the shiny new kid on the block, is my advice. Always weigh out the pros and cons. Sometimes you don't need serverless. The hidden costs that come with serverless might not be something that you can take on early on as well. So always do thorough research before you actually pick a solution. Don't pick a solution just because it's the new kid on the block.
Now, do you use a specific cloud provider more than others? Like, do you use AWS?
Yep, AWS. We have a RDS instance on AWS. We have Lambda functions. We have EC2 instances. So the entire thing is on serverless for us. Yep.
Do you like Lambda better than, say, using an Elastic Beanstalk with EC2 instances?
I prefer Lambda functions just because it gives me the flexibility in picking the language that I want to pick when I write the functions. And when we pick Lambda functions, it kind of integrates well with how my website is being served up in a S3 bucket and being able to do REST calls. Your Lambda functions are exposed via API gateway, so you have a good way to make REST calls that way. And you can also invoke a Lambda function from another Lambda function thanks to the AWS SDK that they have created as well. So the whole flexibility in being part of the AWS family is given to you by Lambda functions. And Amazon is good in giving out benchmarking, like saying that if you're using this language, this is how long it's going to take for the Lambda to compute and give you back a result. So you can even pick the language that is going to work well for you.
I think they charge differently too, right? Like I know EC2s, you're kind of like, well, if I want this running all the time, that's 700 hours a month times whatever the hourly rate is. Lambdas are just like per use, right? Like they give you big buckets of them.
Yeah, when each Lambda function is invoked, you get charged a certain amount based on how much of memory you've allocated to the Lambda function and how long the Lambda function actually takes to execute. The execution time really doesn't matter. It's the memory that you allocate to the Lambda function that actually goes towards the cost.
And then how do you handle state management? Is it the same as kind of doing a web app where you're writing stuff to the database or cookies or something to make it so that you can keep track of state in between invocations?
So in our web application, we're actually using the Windows local storage for some state management, but the rest of it is via database. So we're storing the sessions in the database, and we've kind of tied it up with Auth0 as well. So authentication is via Auth0, and we store the access tokens in the database. And every time we need to do a verification, we just pull the database, verify, and as to whether or not the session is valid.
My dad told me never to talk to strangers, or to recruiters, or to strange recruiters.
It's so exciting when the website gives zero information about the job I am applying for.
You take 1 3-month sabbatical, and all of a sudden, you're unhireable. You're not allowed to say it, but you're looking for someone younger than me. Joke's on you, I'm 11 years old.
Finding your next consulting gig should not be this difficult. Quite frankly, you deserve better. Syrinx is the consulting company founded and run by software consultants. We get you. Find out why our employees are some of the happiest and best paid consultants in the industry at syrinx.com. That's SYRINX.com. Find a better way today. Syrinx Consulting is a proud sponsor of Underserved, the podcast for the rest of the tech industry.
Can you tell me a bit about being in a startup-y type environment within a big company? Like, what do you have to adapt to? How's it different from being a cog in a big machine?
I think the best part of being in a startup is if you're looking for a role where you get to wear many hats, then a startup it is. For example, if there's a marketing campaign going on, everyone is on board trying to get the marketing campaign material out. So you get to see how marketing works. You get to see how sales work. You get to see how, as a product manager, what you're looking for. And I think it forms a closely knit team because everyone is working towards the same goal. Everyone has equal stake in getting the startup successful. It's not that being a cog in a huge company is a bad thing. If you like the reliability, you want to be an individual contributor and you're good at what you do, then maybe that's what it is. And it's a different cup of tea for someone else. I like my green tea, but I like it steeped for a long time. So it just totally depends on what you want to do.
All right, a quick aside on caffeine addiction. During this whole quarantine thing, got a mocha pot and have been making like Italian style espresso and then dumping a bunch of sugar in it to make Cuban coffee every morning. It's so good.
I think anyone who doesn't survive on caffeine in the coding world are actually aliens walking amongst us because I do not get how people can survive without caffeine, be it in a Red Bull form or coffee or monster drinks. For me, it's like no caffeine, the body count will be huge.
Speaking of working remotely, I think you did the ultimate version several years back while you were traveling. Can you tell the stories around that? Because I've teased this to some folks and they were really interested to hear about it.
That was the best year of my life. Actually, saying that is still an understatement. What happened was I was on Facebook and there was this ad that popped up saying, "Do you want to work remotely while traveling?" And it was this group called Remote Here. And it's a cool concept. You know, they don't give you a job, you come with a job. So essentially, you talk with your boss or you talk with your workplace and you see whether you can work remotely. And you're with a bunch of people. And in my case, it was about 50 odd people. And you travel from city to city for an entire year. So what they do for you is they set up a workplace in every city that you go to that has high-speed internet and you have access to the workspace 24/7. And with your downtime, instead of binging on Netflix series, you are traveling. You are looking at the world walk past you. The itinerary was 10 countries, 12 cities, but I ended up doing 23 countries in a year. Actually, I hadn't chalked up my country count until I did that trip. Imagine this. You are working in an Airbnb in Greece. And then you look up and it's Santorini in front of you. And the next day when you wake up, you're in Israel just because there was an airport strike and you needed to get out of Greece. And now you're in Israel on a 60 euro flight ticket. That entire thing was amazing. And it just makes you so much more adaptable to remote work because, yeah, you're going to deal with yucky Wi-Fi or the network not being able to give you what you need. You just adapt. You're like, all right, I can deal with this. I'll tether off someone else's or I'll find another cafe to go to. And that cafe might end up having better coffee. In Colombia, that's where my caffeine guru kind of thing. I went from cafe to cafe every 4 hours, not because the Wi-Fi was sucky, but because I wanted to try every coffee that there was. That was an amazing experience. And I highly recommend, once this whole COVID-19 is over, I highly recommend everyone to try it out.
Now, I think you spent some time in Morocco as well, right?
Yep, an entire month in Rabat.
And what'd you do while you were there?
Morocco was interesting because you have to follow the customs and be aware of what's happening around you as well. And I had a friend who was in Singapore and I was like, well, I'm spending a month in Rabat. So I'm going to be there. Do you want to come and maybe explore Morocco with me? So what I actually did was I took 2 weeks off and we went on a road trip around Morocco. And I was tired of couscous at the end of the trip. But I did try goat's brains, which I didn't know until I tasted it. So that was an eye-opener. And oh my God, the mint tea that they have there is amazing. The food was amazing. The culture is amazing. And it was an experience. Would I go back there again? Not really, just because there are many other countries I want to hit. But it's like a checklist, right? Like Morocco, check.
Were there any others that you had highlights or interesting stories from?
Oh yes, you want to know where I had the best Wi-Fi ever?
Yes.
It was in the Amazon jungle. I had the strongest Wi-Fi in a hut in the Amazon jungle. I did my best coding there. I remember checking in my code saying, remember that this was done in the Amazon jungle. That code resides forever. And another cool thing was you get to play paintball. People are like, yeah, I played paintball. I can say I played paintball in Pablo Escobar's estate. The estate in Colombia has been converted to like a paintball thingy. So I played paintball in Pablo Escobar's estate.
That's pretty cool for everyone who's been watching Narcos on Netflix.
Exactly.
Now, do you end up hanging around with the other 50 or so people that are on it? Or is it more like a safety net or buying power? Or how much did you interact with the other folks from the program?
There's a huge interaction that happens because, number one, it depends on, like in Colombia, there's a time difference and everything. So you might be actually working either Colombian hours or you might be working US hours in Colombia. So depending on who was working on what, there's a different bunch of people you interact with in each city. But that aside, Remote Year kind of created activities for us. In each city that we went to, there might be a culinary experience where you learn how to make paella, or you might learn how to go play polo riding. So we had activities that made us bond as well. And when the weekend came, or if there was a holiday, there would be someone who's like, all right, I rented a car. I'm heading up to this place. There's 3 more spots in the car. Who wants to come? So you just tend to mingle and co-mingle and mix and match with whoever was going what based on your interest. But there was always a lot of interaction within the group.
What'd you guys use to coordinate? Did you use like WhatsApp or anything like that?
We had Slack that Remote Year had set up for each group. And it's been more than 3 years since Remote Year ended. And we still have an active WhatsApp group going on. We actually have reunions that happen on a yearly basis. Like last year, we decided, yep, we're going to do a French takeover. So we booked a castle in France and we had a reunion there. And we were supposed to do one in Prague this year. But oh well, COVID-19 happened.
Yeah. Reschedule.
Yep.
Remote Year, is that a nonprofit or how do they get everyone coordinated?
So what happens is if you're on Remote Year, imagine you're paying rent. Essentially, you're paying an amount of money to Remote Year on a monthly basis. So it's like a rent because you're set up with an apartment and you have a workspace set up and you have a couple of activities in each city as well. So that's what that amount covers, along with when you're moving from city to city, like at the end of the month, you're moving to the next city, the transportation for that is covered as well. And it was good because when we were in Portugal going to go to Morocco, there's actually a airport strike and that was the first month. And we were in a situation where when you were standing in the airport waiting to go through and get to your flight, I could feel the hair follicles on the guy next to me because everything was so packed. And everyone was so close to each other. But it was fun because we were like giving signals saying, all right, nobody can board the plane until we're all there. So it was a bonding session there itself. But yes, back to the point, they also provide transportation from one city to another.
Okay, so the 12 cities is kind of like one city per month, and then you branched out, and that's how you got to 23?
Exactly. Over the weekends, long weekends, and vacation time, you had to take vacation in that year.
So you went to Morocco, Greece, Portugal. Where else did you go?
Israel, Bosnia, Colombia. Oh, yeah, I wanted to say I spent Halloween in Romania in Dracula's castle. So that's as Halloween as you can get.
Wow, that's very Halloween-y.
Colombia, the highlight was Pablo Escobar. When I jumped off this bridge off in Guatape and we went to the Galapagos, I was in Ecuador.
Did you guys do like any sort of shared photo or movie album or anything like that?
We have Google albums and all the pictures are dumped there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Google Photos. I keep finding new uses for it. Like I made a portfolio thing for my daughter's soccer. I made one of my other daughter doing the Easter decorations for the table, made a little album for that and shared it. And then I even figured out you can use it as like a primitive storyboard as well. So I went around, I was making a video for what it's like to be on Underserved. And I kind of went through and took pictures of where I might want to shoot different scenes for the video. And then you can actually click on them and you can make notes. So I started writing dialogue in each of the pictures and then basically ended up concatenating it all together into a script once I was done too.
Oh, nice. Aren't you just amazed by the fact that you can search and you get the images related to the word search?
It works pretty well.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
Facial recognition's scary.
Is this you? I'm like, yeah, it's me. Oh my God. Yeah, pretty
Yep.
cool.
Did you guys travel to any countries in Asia at all?
No, so ours was Africa, South America, and Europe. So different groups go to different parts of the world. So you might have a group that does Asia. There was a group that did Asia. You get an option as to which group you want to join. I didn't want to do Asia just because the working hours would have been crazy, literally like day and night.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't want too much of a time difference kind of thing. So yeah, there were groups that went down to Thailand, Vietnam. Asia is beautiful. I think the other two experiences I did that was kind of cool was I made chocolate from scratch in the Amazon jungle.
How do you do that?
We picked our own cocoa beans and then you peel it off. You think that cocoa bean is like hard or something, but no, you peel off the fruit and then we dry roasted it and we ground it. Then we added milk to it and we had chocolate.
That's cool.
Yeah. But there's so many experiences that are really good. Like in Colombia, I had stomach issues. But guess what? Colombians have prune yogurt. Did you even know that there was such a thing? Danone creates prune yogurt out there. So I'm like, all right, so this is good. But yeah, I think the coolest thing was the Romania Dracula's castle.
I don't know. The Escobar paintball sounds pretty cool.
Pretty cool, right? Yeah. There's so many things that were cool. Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah. In Croatia, we took a side trip as well. The Airbnb that we took, when you woke up, you actually looked at the Black Sea. How often can you say that I woke up to the Black Sea?
That's cool. Did you eat caviar?
No, I don't like the taste. It's too salty.
Fishy,
for me.
salty.
Yeah, too salty for me. But they had tripe up there, which I didn't try as well because it was literally like this flaccid piece of thing that they just dumped in front of you in a bowl. It was like a broth. I'm like, yeah, no, no. You could still see the things like, the little, I don't know what it's called, but you could see like sticking out from the tripe thingy. I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm adventurous, but there's a line that I got to draw.
Yeah, I drew that at Brains. So yeah.
Do you have any hobby projects like software development you do on your own for fun?
Yeah, I have my own website and I know there are a lot of website frameworks and everything, but I wanted to do it purely from scratch. So I did everything using pure JavaScript. I like doing that. I like, how they have coding challenges online. I like getting into that. I also recently decided that I love going for conferences just because the networking opportunities are huge and you always have the booth set up and, they have those laptop stickers. I've gone crazy trying to collect them now and I just don't want to buy them. So it's like a stamp of, hey, I went to this conference and I have this AWS sticker right now.
I got a cover for my MacBook so I can put those on there, but then tear the covers off if I want to look all corporate and formal.
Oh, I see, that is like thinking ahead. I didn't do that. And now my MacBook is what it is.
All right, B. Well, thank you very much for recording remotely with us and keeping the Underserved podcast schedule alive. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
And we look forward to seeing you sometime soon when it's safe to do so. and look forward to talking to everyone else on the next episode of Underserved.